channels covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of respectful dialogue. Our local officials and politicians are here to listen, engage, and work towards solutions to benefit all of us. While we may have different perspectives or passionate opinions, it's crucial that we express them in a way that fosters understanding, not division. This space is meant for constructive conversation. If you don't feel you can engage in this way tonight, a member of the council staff is at the back of the room and they will help you arrange a one-on-one with someone who will listen to your concerns. Thank you everyone for cooperating, and let's have a productive meeting where every voice has the opportunity to be heard. Let's move forward together. I would just like to introduce before we start our Chief Police Myron Demkiw. Myron? Staff Superintendent Brett Nicole. Our Public School Trustee Liban Hassan. And Acting Superintendent Carrie Fernandez. And Carrie, when she gets up to speak, she'll introduce everyone else that's on the stage. As you know, we've had an increase in crime in York Southwestern. Gun violence, car thefts, and break-ins have become the too common, and it's very frustrating for me, as I know it's frustrating for the community as well. It makes me sick every day when I turn on CP24 on the radio and I hear there's a homicide in the city. It just makes me sick to my stomach, and it's so frustrating to hear that. I take these matters very seriously, and I've been advocating for key measures to address it, including collaborating with the Toronto Police to maintain and expand the neighborhood community officers program here in York Southwestern. And I know that we put an application in, and Chief, I hope that you'll approve that application. Okay, we need more neighborhood officers. Sorry to put you on. I didn't mean to. But we are very supportive, and I know we have the support from the residents of BIA and the community. We've already seen the positive impact of our NCOs who are building strong relationships with our community and addressing its unique needs. In fact, 12th Division has requested additional 4 NCOs for Weston, a request that I fully support. To further enhance public safety, Toronto Police Services 12th Division is also working on a proposal to install more CCTV cameras at Western Road and Lawrence, another initiative that I fully support. I will be introducing the bail reform motion at the next City Council meeting because I firmly believe that reforming the bail system is essential to enhancing community safety. While the city cannot directly change the criminal code or bail practices, we can strongly advocate for the federal and provincial government to act swiftly in implementing these much-needed reforms. This year, I'm working closely with the Residents Association to introduce Crime Stoppers, a neighborhood safety program that will introduce safety initiatives throughout the community. I firmly believe that by strengthening the partnership between the community and the police, we can introduce even more initiatives that will improve public safety and create lasting positive change. By working together, I'm confident we can make York Southwestern a safer, more vibrant community for everyone. Now it's my pleasure to ask Chief Myron Demkiw to come forward.
Thank you, Councilor, and I appreciate, Councilor, the invitation to be here today from yourself and School Trustee Liban and Hassan. Very important time in our city. Of course, an important time here in this community. For those who may not know, though, I do want to make a note of Councilor Nunziata's engagement with the police service and how I've come to know Councilor Nunziata for a number of years. Councilor Nunziata was a member of the Police Service Board and has always been a strong advocate for policing and community safety issues and the engagement of the community with the police. And of course, the expansion of the Neighborhood Community Officer Program. So, although I can't stand here today and tell everybody that we're going to be able to expand that program broadly, what I can tell you that we are very strongly working with our board to provide the best possible way forward on a multi-year hiring plan that hopefully will give us the capacity to continue to deliver our core services while we look to expand some of the programs that we know are very important to everybody. And I'm very happy today to be joined by members of the TPS team. You'll hear from some of them momentarily, and the superintendent will introduce some additional members, and we'll take some questions. I do want to ask you all to just join me in acknowledging the incredible, hardworking members of 12th Division that we see represented here. To do incredible work every day. Thank you for that, and thank you to our members. You guys go above and beyond every day. I really appreciate that. As we know, there's been a significant number of shootings and tragic incidents in our city over the past few weeks, including in this very community and this division. And I understand the concerns, and the data that we see does reflect an increase in gun violence compared to last year. And I share the community's concerns and the frustrations the councillor just noted. And I do note that when we compare this year's numbers to pre-pandemic years, gun violence incidents are on par, even as our population has continued to grow. Now I say that with some hesitation, some trepidation. I'm always hesitant to talk about statistics, especially around gun violence, because we really need to acknowledge the pain and trauma that families feel as a result of gun violence, and that this pain impacts generations. We do offer our deepest condolences to those who have lost loved ones to gun violence. These numbers, statistics, they don't bring people back. And we know there's been a number of homicides in this division this year. In early September, I know that the killing of Mario Giddings, a 15-year-old boy, who was supposed to start grade 11 here at Weston Collegiate Institute, has shaken this community. And I can promise you that the Toronto Police Service stands with you. Our officers are working around the clock. We've increased our presence in many neighborhoods affected by gun violence, and we're making this presence more visible as well. We are employing crime data analysis to identify violent hotspots and patterns aimed at enhancing police presence as a deterrent to criminal activity. And to make sure those responsible for this violence are brought to justice, we've assigned specialized investigative teams, ensuring experienced personnel manage complex cases to ensure all violent crimes are comprehensively investigated. I will note that your superintendent in charge of this division is a very experienced, long-standing experience in the homicide squad, and understands the impact of these events and understands what it takes to solve those types of crimes. And additionally, we have here with us the unit commander of our integrated gun and gang task force. Proactive policing and strategic deployment of our specialized units is at the heart of our gun violence strategy. We remain laser focused on disrupting gun violence and getting crime guns off our streets. So far in 2024, we've made 746 firearms arrests. The total number of firearms arrests in 2023 was 671. This year to date, we have also seized 561 firearms. As we know, one firearm can be used in many different crimes, so getting guns off our street is always a high priority for our service. We have a service-wide approach focused on intervention and enforcement, but it's important not to forget the work we are doing on prevention. We are deeply concerned about how many youths are involved in recent gun violence. We are committed to programs like our Gang Prevention Task Force and Engage 416 initiative, which helps youth exit gang life. I also think of the Community Connect program that connects youth with training and development initiatives. And our focus tables, a collaboration of more than 170 community agencies that addresses high-risk situations to reduce crime, victimization, and harm. Our top priority is to keep our community safe. That is our job, but we cannot do this job alone. Community support is so important. During her presentation, Acting Superintendent Fernandez will share different numbers to contact us if you need help or if you have valuable information. Information, including anonymous tips, really can help us solve cases. In fact, we just ran an auto theft awareness campaign in partnership with Toronto Crime Stoppers that ended yesterday. During the campaign, Crime Stoppers offered an enhanced cash reward of up to $5,000 for any information that can assist investigators in identifying and arresting those responsible for auto thefts in Toronto. Whether it's auto theft, gun violence, regimenters, or other challenges, we are here to work with the public and with community partners. That's why it's so important for me to be here this evening to hear directly from you. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I am here to listen and answer questions with a great team that's here. Thank you all so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Chief. And now I'd like to invite Liban Hassan, our school board trustee, that would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Councilor Nunziata, and welcome everyone tonight to our ward forum, our joint meeting together with the Councilor and the Chief of Police. I want to thank the Chief of Police for coming out tonight, and I want to thank Councilor Nunziata for bringing us all together. When it comes to community and school safety, there is no one institution that's responsible. This is a collective effort, and as you can see tonight, we have the City of Toronto, we have the TDSB, and we have the Toronto Police. We also have several community leaders and organizations in the crowd, and I want to thank you all for coming too, and the residents who are just as concerned with this community. So, my name is Liban Hassan, I'm the trustee for Ward 6 York South Weston, and since I came into office in 2022, I've been dealing with school safety. Many of you are familiar with the situation that happened at York Memorial. That situation brought up the numbers of acts of violence in the TDSB to an all-time high. 2022 to 2023 was the deadliest year in the TDSB. 1/3 of those acts of violence occurred right here in Ward 6 York Southwestern. And due to my advocacy and the advocacy of our community, we've been able to bring that down to the standards on par with the rest of the wards. And we did that through our voices and advocating to school staff. When we look at social workers, extra support workers throughout the TDSB, Ward 6 has the most. And other wards are always complaining, like, why does these schools get the most? Because we have a lot of issues that we need to deal with. We are getting better at it, but this seems to be an ongoing issue that we're still trying to work on. And this is not just like I said earlier, it's not one institution that can fix this. Many of the issues that we see in our schools come from community. So how do we deal with that? School goes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. But what happens from 3 p.m. to students get home? There needs to be after-school programs. And I can proudly say that the TDSB has been working with several community agencies in the York Southwestern area and the surrounding communities to bring programs forward. Whether that information is being brought forward to community at its best ability, I cannot say. But I try my best by posting on social media, through my newsletters, and I know our council does the same thing as well. So it's a collective effort. I know the City of Toronto has programs. 12th Division also has programs as well that engages the youth. So with all of these, I think this is a great opportunity for youth, but I don't know if all of our youth know about it. So it's our job as a community to make sure that the message gets out. So all in all, when it comes to combating violence in our school system, it's a collective effort and it's a collaborative approach. Every single school in TDSB deserves to be caring, safe, peaceful, nurturing, and positive. If any of those values have been compromised, it ruins the academic success of students within that school. As soon as that becomes a concern, we go to a department in the TDSB called caring and safe schools. Caring and Safe Schools has been working with many of our schools for over the years, as you can imagine, and they're the ones that bring in the extra support staff that we need. What the Caring and Safe Schools does is they bring preventative programs. When it comes to addressing violence in our schools, there is no one size fits all. It's about identifying the students that are high at risk and delivering a concentrated, focused, and intentional effort to make sure that that student can reach his highest potential. And that's what we've been doing here at Weston Collegiate and at York Memorial. I also want to say thank you to our principal, Rosanna Dio, who has been doing an outstanding job, and we can give her a round of applause, please. I talk to Rosanna almost every week, and she gives me updates about what's going on, and we have a zero tolerance policy for violence or students that cause harm in our schools. One thing that we're doing is looking at students' attendance. We're seeing students that don't consistently come to school, and we're addressing that right away by contacting parents. We want students to come to our schools that want to be here and want to contribute and make sure that they graduate and contribute to society as a whole. Students that don't come here with those intentions often may find themselves in the wrong situation. So it's very important that we do that intervention, and that's why we're focusing on attendance. As you guys know, in the past, there have been incidents of violence that occurred just outside of our schools. And like I mentioned, this stems from issues in community. It doesn't always start in our schools. So how we address that, like I said, we work with other organizations, the TPS, the City of Toronto, and we deliver programming for the youth, targeted, intentional, with an effort to bring those that are endangered and at risk out of the mix and being able to achieve the highest potential. And another thing I want to touch on before I pass the mic back is when we talk about safety in our schools, it's not always about violence, but it's about also road safety. We've had several close encounters and unfortunate situations where students have been hit by vehicles. So I'm fortunate enough to work with a councillor that stands forward and advocates for road safety in our community. And a school that I want to give you an example about is 400 Rockcliffe, which Dennis Avenue is currently using. We were able to bring in speeding cameras there, because anyone that drives down Rockcliffe knows that there's always cars speeding. We hear similar concerns at Palmo Park, right over by Gary Drive. So we're working on addressing that now, and I've also been hearing about Harwood as well. So road safety is just as important, and when we think about school safety, it's not just about the violence, it's about all the aspects. It's about all the wraparound support services that come with it, and it's a collective effort. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I don't want to take too much of the time, but if you have any questions, please let me know. We can do it publicly, or we can do it after the meeting as well. And now I'd like to pass it over to our superintendent, Jacqueline Spence.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Spence, and I'm the superintendent with the Toronto District School Board. And I'm in what we call Family of Schools 4. We've just sort of reconfigured this year. And so it's a pleasure for me to be here this evening. Very interested in listening to what everyone has to say about this very important issue. And I have the pleasure of working closely with Trustee Liban Hassan. So I look forward. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Acting Superintendent Carrie Fernandez to come forward, say a few words, and Carrie, if you can introduce the rest of your team. Because we have a big team here tonight. And we have the team. We also have the team back there.
Do we have the PowerPoint ready? Good evening. We've had a number of speakers already up here tonight. My job is to fill you in on some of the stats and trends, as well as let you know what we are doing and what you can do to help you protect yourselves in conjunction with us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carrie Fernandez. I'm currently the superintendent at 12 Division. I work with a team of individuals to prevent crime and to react to situations to ensure that people are held accountable and that you can remain safe here at 12. My team is sitting over here. Standing at the furthest to my left is Acting Detective Sergeant David Forbes. You can just stand up, Dave. Dave is in charge of our detective squad and our major crime squad at 12 Division. Detective Sergeant Paul Domini, also beside him, runs our NCO officers. And also back there is Acting Inspector Josh Jamshidi, who is the second in charge at 12 Division. I don't have a clicker, so if you could please just forward the slides as we go along. Thanks. The 12th Division building is located at the corner of Trustee and Black Creek Drive. You can come by any time to seek assistance or to report a crime. The 12th Division boundaries are from the 401 to the north, St. Clair to the south, the Humber River to the west, and the CN tracks to the east. 12th Division has a number of neighborhoods that all see a variety of police involvement. Currently, one of the trends we are noticing is online sales robberies. These robberies are related to Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, and other online ads. On the screen here before me is simply represented of Facebook, but it is not just that. These robberies occur when the victim posts an item for sale online. It's usually an easily resellable item, like a laptop or a piece of jewelry. The suspect asks to look at the item when they meet closer, and before the victim realizes what's happening, the suspect can leave with the item, fleeing the scene. This also happens when the victim attends a meeting for the purpose of purchasing an item. The victim is told to bring a large quantity of cash, and when they get there, using threats of violence or an assault on the victim, the suspect steals the money and flees the scene. We want you to remember that although we're always around to investigate these after, the best things that you can do is to protect yourself before these occur. While police will always try to locate and hold the perpetrators responsible, you can protect yourself by meeting in a public place, try to do it in a well-lit place with video surveillance, attend meetings with trusted friends, and remember that if the deal you're going to seek seems too good to be true, it probably is. Also, don't carry large quantities of cash when you go to these meetings. Really, that makes it the easiest target. Break-and enters in 12 Division this year are down 4.1%. In 2023, there were 153 enters into homes in 12 Division. The year to date, there's been 111 entries into the homes in 12 Division. Into businesses, there were 72 entries in 2023. There have been 99 entries to businesses in 12 Division this year. When you report a break and enter, an officer attends your home and collects all of the evidence that you have. That can be photographs, fingerprints, video evidence, or even background information that can lead to a suspect. Our major crime unit will then follow up with you. We have teams of 7 major crime officers per side. They will attend your house, they will take further statements, and their job is to put the pieces of the puzzle together to try to identify the perpetrator that committed the crime and put them before the court. We also have a crime prevention officer. George Jalilia, if you could please stand up. George is our crime prevention officer. For every break and enter that occurs in 12 Division that is outside of one of the designated community safety neighborhoods, George will attend the house or business and go over with the owner planning on how to protect themselves better or to increase the security within their place of business or home. This can include lighting, removing of bushes, different surveillance cameras looking, interior time delay switches, so that people believe that they are always occupied in the businesses or residences. But George goes around to each one of those. In any neighborhood that is already established as a designated neighborhood for our neighborhood community officers, one of the officers from those neighborhoods will attend that business or home. And if any person has any need for those officers to attend and just to do a preventative walkthrough of their home or business with them, they are available. So I will provide those numbers to you at the end of the presentation. Make sure to take note of them and make use of that service if you could do so. Theft of vehicles has been one of the ongoing problems with Toronto over the past 2 years. This year, though, auto thefts in 12 Division are down approximately 15%. The TPS has designated certain units to combat auto theft, as well as carjacking incidents. We still notice the majority of vehicles stolen from 12 Division are stolen from public spaces, including roads in front of homes, parking lots, and malls. There's been data showing that more often the cars are stolen during the week, at least within 12 Division, Monday to Thursday. But that's not an extreme difference. I would tell you that parking your car inside a garage and having it in the next slide, and having it in a well-lit area, also within video surveillance, protects your car from being stolen, but if it is stolen, also assists police in giving us leads in order to return your property to you. One of the biggest things we continue to say throughout any meetings with the public is that we have to do this in partnership. The people are always our best resource to find out what is happening at what time. It is immediate if you phone, if you can provide information to us to tell us what's happening. So if you see a car being stolen in your neighborhood, please don't assume somebody else is phoning. Please phone 911 to report something like this happening as soon as you notice it. Please don't be afraid of us. Shootings continue to plague our city. 12 Division has been the victim of multiple shootings this past year. The chart presented on screen distinguishes between firearm discharges and shootings. Firearm discharges are when there is a shot or multiple shots fired, but no person is struck. A shooting is classified when there is a shot or multiple shots and a person is struck. In 2023, there were 14 firearm discharges and 7 shootings within 12 Division. In 2024, to date, there have been 22 firearm discharges and 14 shootings within 12 Division. This year, 6 of those shootings resulted in homicides. Many of you asked where the shootings have occurred. This chart designates which neighborhoods we are finding shootings and firearm discharges occurring. We realize that a number of the neighborhoods in 12 Division have had shootings and firearm discharges this year. In order to calm this trend, a violence reduction strategy has been implemented. Each firearm-related offense, including discharges, robberies, carjackings, and threatenings, have been analyzed. From this data, we have seen what times and locations these events most frequently occur. Uniformed officers have been deployed en masse to these areas at these times. We have also called in off-duty officers to work extra hours during these times. We want to catch people committing these crimes, but we really want to stop it from happening before it starts. All this visible uniform presence, while in the background, our guns and gangs officers are working behind the scenes to take hundreds of firearms off the street. Our engaged 416 officers and our neighborhood community officers are always working with the youth in the community in sports programs, cooking programs, and even literacy programs to help the youth make smart choices and stay away from the violence. This year, 24 new officers have come to 12th Division, 21 male and 3 female. They represent multiple ethnicity, multiple languages, and multiple education backgrounds. Also, 2 members of other services have joined 12th Division as experienced officers. In 12th Division, we have 4 different designated neighborhood officers. In Weston Road, Officer Brian Davey, Officer Cherry Atkins, Officer Colin Patrick, and Officer Alex Benny represent Weston. Brian Davey and Colin Patrick, you're both here. If you could just stand up and give a wave, please. In the rustic community, we have Jose Arias, Daniel Vitale, Justin Chan, who is also here. Justin, please stand up. And Mary DeAngelis. In the Beach Grove Greenbrook neighborhood, we have Cambria McKay, Jeff Bennett, Damian Davis, and Dan Luff. And in the Rockcliffe Smythe area, we have Tim Barnhart, John Madeley, Devinder Patak, and Raman Singh. These officers are available to you after the meeting if you have any specific questions about what's going on in their designated neighborhoods. Some of the programs they run through are done throughout the year. Meeting with communities, basketball programs, rugby programs, soccer programs, cooking, and multiple school attendance, church attendance, and anything else that you require of them in your community, they will make themselves available for. I'll leave our contact information up here on the screen for a moment. The 12th Division Inspector Josh Jamshidi and myself pride ourselves in being available to assist. If there are issues, specifically ones you feel we don't know about, please let us know. Staff Domini is the leader of the neighborhood safety officers. Many of you have seen him around your businesses and neighborhoods. We work as a team to assist the community. Please reach out if you need anything. As always, I want you to know we can't do this alone. We need you to help us. Call if you see something. You need to let us know what's going on when we don't know. If you see something happening in an emergency situation, call 911. You also have the availability to call Crime Stoppers at 416-808-2222 or following any of the Crime Stoppers prompts online to report it anonymously. We at 12th Division will always be able to take your call. The number for 12th Division is 416-808-1200. Thank you very much for being a part of us and helping us keep your city safe.
Before we go to questions, I just want to introduce a very good friend of mine. Spider Jones is an energetic advocate of the Believe to Achieve organization, a youth outreach development and counseling charity. Many of Spider's events go to the benefit of Believe to Achieve with kids, and he works mostly in the Jane and Finch area, but he's been doing work with youth in the city for many years. And I know that the police, they're all aware of the wonderful work he does. So I'd like to ask Spider just to come forward and say a few words and introduce yourself. Spider?
Thank the worst thing you could do is hand the mic over to the son of a Baptist minister. A little disappointed though, I noticed the chief and some of the other police officers didn't recognize me when I first came in until I went like this. Spider, good to see you again. Anyway, thank you, Frances, and the police officers here. I didn't plan anything because I just thought I would come and support the people in this area. I didn't know I was supposed to speak, but at any rate, I run a youth center, which I've had the honor of founding about 12 years ago up at 160 Chalk Farm. And it's called the Spiders Web Youth Empowerment Center. I don't know how Spiders Web got into it, but I acknowledge it. And we work with young people from 7 years old up. And then we have a young adult program that runs into the, from 15 into the early 20s. And when I'm not doing that, I visit a lot of correctional facilities throughout Canada, and most of them in Ontario. So I've had a chance to work with a lot of young people in prison. And I must tell you, it's disturbing to see how these institutions are jammed up with young people that want to be part of the gang or want to be part of the streets. And the lure of the streets is very, very strong. And young people, especially those that grow up in, I would just say it, places that are financially challenged. And I've always said that they always want the same, no matter if a kid's 14 or 15, and they come from Rosedale, or they come from Regent Park, or they come from some other hood. They all want the same things because they're all exposed to the same things on television. So they all want them. Now, if the opportunity isn't there, for the poor kids, they're going to get them another way. Because I grew up doing that, and I will tell you, and I'm not ashamed of it because it may be who I am today, but I'm an ex-con. I served time in Millbrook and other places, and so it gave me the empathy I need to understand these young people today. And through our organization, we've had wonderful opportunities to work with the Toronto Police Force, including police officers that come in a lot and work with our kids. And we have all kinds of programs up there. And I think that it all begins in the home. In the home. It all begins in the home. Young people have to be held responsible for what they do, but they also need great mentors, and they need people that are willing to work with them and help them provide opportunities. I didn't have that. When I was growing up, there was no Spiders Web. There was no place for me to go, and I began hanging around the streets at 11 or 12 years old. And I was, my professors, my teachers, my mentors were pimps, hustlers, drug dealers, because these people drove the nice big cars, they wore the nice clothes, they had the pretty girls, and they had a pocket full of green. And young people see that today, and that's what they want. We got to tell them another way, because you may love the streets, but I'll tell you what, the streets will never love you back. And I know there's only one ending, or two: prison or an early grave. So I commend those that come out today, and you're out here because you're concerned. We need more of that. There's too much apathy out there. There was a shooting in the next building over in my area at 160 Chalk Farm a few days ago. Now let me tell you this. Some of my kids, they saw it, they knew who it was, but they won't say anything out of fear. We got to find a way to work around that, don't we? You might call them a snitch, But it's dangerous because a lot of these bullets just fly and hurt innocent people. So at any rate, I want to leave it at that. But you can reach me anytime, SpiderJones@Rogers.com, and come out to our center and see what we're doing, how we work with the police officers, and how the chief and them did so many wonderful things for us. God bless you, and just stay concerned and stay supportive of each other. Thank you.
Spire does a lot of great work with young kids, and it's a non-profit organization, and I want to thank Spider for being here and telling us about his story. So thank you, and that's it for the speakers. So now we're going to go to questions, and if you do have a question, if you can line up in the lobby there, and now you have 2 minutes to ask a question. And then whoever the question is directed to, if it's for the chief or anyone else that's on stage, or a question to Spider Jones, come forward, but only 2 minutes, because we want to give an opportunity for everyone that's here to have an opportunity to ask their question. So you can line up between the two aisles, and we'll pass the mic on. And I'll bring the mic here so they can answer the question. 2 minutes.
I'm glad I got in first. Thank you for the presentations. My name is Jason. I'm a resident here in Weston. There's been a lot of violent crime, that were shootings and whatnot, moving into the neighborhoods themselves. It's bad enough when it happens at Weston and Lawrence, where the economic area, but when it gets right into our backyards, it is scaring us. And what I was hoping to hear, maybe it's something you can come back to us on, is a 5-point plan, maybe it's a 7-point plan, maybe it's 10 points, of what is going to turn the tide and create a safer residential community for us. One other quick thought I want to leave you with is there are hundreds of people here today. There are over 3,000 highly engaged people on our Facebook page. And I would like to know what you think those 3,000 people should and could be doing to make a change. Maybe it's petition for bail reform. Maybe it's a petition to get more social welfare supports. And maybe it's creating a Crime Stoppers elite in every community street. So I'm curious what you can contribute on that.
So I'll start and then see if the superintendent or anybody else wants to add something that's unique to this community. But I think as far as the plan, in this kind of environment, I will tell you it's hard to talk about the entire strategic approach we have. What I want you to be assured of is a couple of things. We are very much focused on prevention, intervention, and enforcement. So the Toronto Police Service is committed to all three of those streams of activity that are required. We are a city of many communities, and what we try to do is co-design, co-develop, co-deliver safety in our communities that's relevant for the individual communities. So we do drive it down to the local level as much as we possibly can, while supporting it with the specialized tools that we have, whether it's our surveillance officers, our gun and gang officers, our crime prevention teams, our gang intervention teams, to support what's happening locally. And all of this lines up under Toronto's 10-year Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan called SAFE-TO. And I share this really because it's important to know that the legislation requires every municipality to have a community safety well-being plan. Toronto's is called SAFE-TO. I encourage you to look that up. It has many activities that take place there. I will reassure you that we are plugged in at the city from the executive down to the local division. And all the way through that spectrum of care that would happen in the hierarchy and across systems. That includes, I think I heard Jim Spyropoulos is in the room, and that includes the school board at the executive level, talking with my deputy chiefs, with me, all the way to the local crime traffic order management that happens at the local division, where we have integrated security teams that come together across the different systems that have to coalesce. There is no single answer to gun violence. It does take multiple systems persistently and consistently working together in harmony to the best possible extent we can. And as I said to my colleagues, we have to keep identifying the gaps and the challenges and solutioning them. There is no one solution. There are going to be many different versions of solutions for every single community to make sure we do address what's happening locally. So, and we can, have an entire symposium just on all that coming together, but it does happen. As it relates to the community involvement in the digital space, I will tell you what I'm really excited to hear about is that you have a group of that magnitude. I have asked the deputy chief in charge of the field command to take a look at a digital neighborhood community officer program. So we are seeing what you've described happening across our great city. Communities are coalescing around issues of safety on WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups all over the city for any number of crime issues. This is an opportunity for us in our efforts to continue our modernization, to find a way to engage in those spaces at the neighborhood community officer model in the digital environment. So look forward to that in the future, 1. 2, you have every opportunity to engage with the police service board by deputing, staying aware of the issues and finding opportunities to get your voice heard. There are opportunities for the public to participate. I'm sure the councillor and our local division create awareness on those key opportunities. In the policing context, I told you we are looking at a multi-year hiring plan with the city. We go every year to the city for budget support. These are not easy discussions in the city of Toronto. We know that. You all watch the coverage on it whenever it happens. Your voice matters in that discussion. We need to hear your perspective. And that includes when we're not getting it right, and includes making sure that the councillor and her colleagues know what you care about when it comes to safety. Know what your feelings are and what your priorities are locally when it comes to safety. So I'd encourage you to motivate that group to get involved in those discussions and have your voice heard. Too often, we don't hear what I hear in living rooms across the city. We don't hear that at the deputations. What I hear in town halls does not always make it to the conversations where they're happening when it comes to resourcing and the important decisions on a finite pot of money that the city is managing. So please take that great opportunity and coalesce together and finding a way to have your voice heard, and we will help you understand where to do that through the local division.
Thank you. And as far as you mentioned petition, as I mentioned, I do have a motion going through council next week about bail reform, so it would help me if I got a petition with residents supporting on advocating to the provincial and federal government on bail reform. Did anybody else want to answer that question? Okay, we'll go to the next question. Go ahead, 2 minutes.
Okay, I want to thank you, Chief, for answering our questions or taking our questions tonight. My name is Sanai. I'm a resident in the area. I'm also a member of the Eritrean Canadian community. A lot of our members are here today. So we plan and carry out a lot of activities at the fields at Eglinton Flats. And for the past year, we've had to organize our activities with the police, PLT, public order, because of the events that happened last year at Earls Court Park, namely the violent riot that sent 12 people to the hospital. My concern is, despite all the availability of video evidence and eyewitnesses, information was only laid against 3 of the rioters in that event, but there were more than 200 violent protesters that day. I was there. And the last time I checked the OCJ records, because I practice law, that's my profession, 2 of the 3 accused have had their cases withdrawn by the prosecution. So the result is that this community is terrified when it plans its events. We have to work with the police to make sure that community members and attendees can enter into events safely, exit safely, and this is no way to live. We have tried very hard, but until the TPS decides to send a clear message to violent protest groups that they cannot act with impunity and that there's going to be consequences for those actions, this whole thing is going to continue. Thank you.
I definitely just want to comment on, I certainly appreciate the concerns that have been mentioned. I think it's important to add a context here that we are policing in obviously what's been a very challenging year in our city as it relates to public demonstrations, and that we have facilitated and had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of events happen across our great city without challenges. And there have been occasions where there have been challenges. We have investigated those. We've laid charges where we have sufficient evidence to lay charges. And I'm not going to comment on specifics of those cases because I haven't been briefed on the specifics. But there is a justice system, and the justice system works the way it works. And that is important. I'd like everybody to understand. We participate in bringing people before the courts. Then the courts have their work to do. And so I think it's important to just acknowledge that while the Ministry of the Attorney General may make a decision to do something on a case, we did put the matter before the courts as described. But also the important context is that we are a city that has many, 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 many hundreds of gatherings in the city that are done safely.
Hello, my name is Catherine. I'm the godmother of Chinya, and this is the mother, Kareem, of Chinya. He's the missing 16-year-old boy. He's been missing from Weston and Denison for 36 days now. He went missing on August 26th. He was 1 month into turning 16. Chinya is a loving, caring, trusting person and a compassionate young man. He attended Chaminade College School, a local all-boys Catholic school. He should have been starting grade 11. Sorry, it might be longer than 2 minutes, but it'll be within our 4 minutes here. I didn't mean to get emotional. But we're here to bring awareness to this case and hopefully bring him home safely. Chinya's disappearance is highly unusual, and we feel we have not been taken seriously on this matter. That you have a checklist of missing persons protocol to follow, and the one thing that is not taken into consideration is the child's characteristics. We have to tell every officer, every time we speak to him, every person in the neighborhood, what type of person Chinya is. Because he's been stereotyped from top to bottom, just because he's a black youth from a black neighborhood. And I have actually been asked from an officer, do you know what area you moved into? That shouldn't matter. Now, there's a few things I've learned since Chinya's gone missing. One, teenagers are still youths, and they're not being taken. They're not taken as if they're a youth. He is still a minor. It seems like missing teenagers are not taken seriously, and that there is a huge lack of concern for a missing black child in this neighborhood. Police make assumptions about teens in the area, while the true characteristics of the child needs to be taken into account. This case was never properly investigated early on based on these assumptions. The local councillors didn't even know about the number of missing childs in their neighborhoods until we informed her yesterday. 7 went missing in 3 days of when Chinya went missing on August 26th. People are getting displaced from their families and moved out of the neighborhood out of fear of local crime. Kids are afraid to take public transit or even attend the library in this area. Middle schools and high schools need to be safe places and need to support their kids. My questions for the Chief of Police is, how do we escalate the response and priority level of the search for Chinya, as assumptions have been made that have wasted too much time in the search? We need action and support from the community for Chinya and others who have been affected by this crime in this neighborhood.
Thank you.
First off, I'd like to start by saying that we have great concern for every single missing person and missing youth. And that's regardless of that person's race, where they live, where they came from, and what the circumstances of their disappearance are. We are always greatly concerned for all of these persons. You mentioned that 7 people went missing within a few days span. The overwhelming majority of our missing people are located within a day or two. They often have, when we're dealing with youth specifically, some sort of a disagreement with their parents, or they want to go to a party that they're not allowed to go to, and they often go stay with a friend and return a short time later. There certainly are situations like here where it does go on for an extended period of time, in this case 36 days. We do have currently 3 outstanding missing youths in 12 Division. 1 only missing for 1 day, which still show great concern for somebody missing for 1 day. Chenier, who's missing for 36, and another individual who's been missing for considerably longer than that. Each one of these cases is unique and brings its own set of circumstances. I can tell you that we have been working very hard and in close collaboration with the missing persons side of our homicide and missing persons unit in regard to Chenier's case. Unfortunately, the ability to track Chenier's movements through things we often do are through banking or by cell phones, unfortunately hasn't been fruitful in this investigation. And we have currently no idea where Chenier might be. Those things that we normally use to track. I can tell you that we have been to schools, we have interviewed his teachers, we have interviewed his friends.
And that's because we provided all the information for you. It took 27 days from when I scheduled the interview with the detective to actually meet Kareem in person. I have provided all of the details to this case for you. Yes, I will.
We have been attempting to speak with friends and families. We haven't received any information that so far has led us to a credible lead that will help us find Chenier. We are continuing to work on it. There's somebody that's assigned to at all times. And again, we have been working very closely with the missing persons side of our homicide and missing persons unit, and they've taken all kinds of steps that are beyond the capability or the know-how of divisional investigators. We do continue to try to bring him home, and we are empathetic to your cause. We do care deeply about each and every one of these cases, and we hope to bring him home soon.
Okay, next question.
My name is Pam, and I live in Oakville, and we have never experienced so much violence and robberies and car theft as in the last several years. I've been robbed too, and on my street there was two other homes that their car was taken. My question is, what has happened the last several years that crime has escalated to, crime, theft, violence has escalated so much? My question, and I'm not sure who can answer this, can it be as a result of poor management from the government? Inflation? How about illegal immigrants? I don't know. Well, I don't know. Like, Well, or, okay, could be. No. So can anybody answer that? Next question.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My name is Rosanna. I'm the mother of 4 children, Black Latino children, ages 16 to 2.5-year-old twins. I have 2 questions. So one question is, when I'm walking around with my twins and my 7-year-old, I'm offered the fantastic grace of a lot of the uniformed police officers who wave, smile at my kids, even, run the lights, put on a little show for them. But when I'm walking with my 16-year-old or my Black husband, I'm not offered the same grace. So you're looking for your community to help you and find these individuals who are causing, the violence in our neighborhoods. But what are you doing to bridge that gap between Black men in the neighborhood, but also youth who are biracial, Black, or other racialized communities? What are you doing to bridge that gap? Because my husband and my 16-year-old aren't offered the same smiles that my 7 and 2.5-year-old twins are. That's my first question. My second question is directed to Liban. I want to know what type of community outreach that you are doing, particularly to be more culturally sensitive and culturally aware, so that we do have a more diverse people attending meetings like this, but also diversity within the groups, the community groups that are happening. So making these flyers or these social media posts available in multiple languages, offering translation services, but also child minding services, because oftentimes child minding is actually a massive barrier in order for young people and also their parents to send these young people to the program. So I want to know specifically, what are you doing to address that issue?
Hi, thank you for your question. I appreciate it. So just in terms of cultural diversity, TDSB does have a policy where we make sure that staff in our schools represent the student body. So in the community like York Southwestern, where there are many Black students, you do find that we have many Black teachers. We do have Black administration, principals and vice principals, even including here at Weston, and York Memo as well. And also our amazing superintendent is Jacqueline Spence, who brings a wealth of experience and is one of our best superintendents at TDSB. So I think that's representation at the leadership level. I am Black myself, I'm a trustee and the community voted me in, so the community clearly cares about representation. And every event that I do, I make sure that I send it out to community organizations that do cater to our communities, which include Black youth. Frontlines, the WVRA, all these organizations here, they work with everyone. This is a diverse and vibrant community, York Southwestern, and from what I can tell, besides that comment we heard earlier, everyone is accepting of each other. And it's obviously something that we need to work on as a society throughout the city of Toronto, but I can say that York Southwestern is one of the most diverse communities. I don't usually find that an issue. Everyone works together and we have large issues to work on, such as safety, which impacts everybody, regardless of your skin, your religious backgrounds or beliefs. So I hope that answers your questions, and I would love to speak with you further after this if you have any more.
That's a great question, because I started working with the school boards back in the early 90s when I was working with Liban 590, and what happened was a teacher asked me to come out and speak to the youth because there was a problem going on, and there was a lot of gang violence going on in this particular school, and this was in Toronto. Actually, it was a tech, Eastern Commerce, I should say, or one of the, but it was about 93, and at a particular time I started working in the schools, and there were no Black teachers then, and a lot of the teachers were even concerned. They would ask me about that. And this went on for a few years, but I noticed over the past few years, especially going into 2000s, more and more teachers of of different colors in it. It's getting better. We still got a long way to go, but it's getting much better, believe me. And I'm not buttering anybody up. I'm just telling you, I understand your concern, because I had it from white teachers who were asking me, how do I deal with this young man? He's from a different culture, and they didn't understand, but it's getting a lot better. But that's it. We still got to work on that area and be concerned. But we've come a long way, believe me. Because I was married back in the 70s, and I'm in a biracial marriage, and it was really difficult back then, but we fought and things are better now. But you keep fighting.
Thank you, Spider. So, next question.
Okay, thank you.
And, sorry, before you start, if I could ask Jim Spyropoulos to come forward to the stage, please. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I knew Chenier when he was a little boy for about 7 years in elementary school. You know, broken windows can be replaced, cars can be replaced, but a child cannot be replaced. And even in your presentation, you are talking about, you know, firearm discharges, and you're talking about break and enters, and you're talking about, you know, windows. But you didn't talk about missing children. There are missing children in this neighborhood and across Toronto that need your attention. They need you to prioritize their well-being. We don't know where Chenier is. He could be held in captivity. He could be lying dead in a ditch. We need your help to bring him home. And even in your presentation, you did not mention him. You did not mention the missing children. These are children, and they need to come home. So my question to you is, what is your operational budget for missing youth and children that are missing? What is your budget for figuring out how to get them home?
I did consider, just the family of Chianos, I did consider putting his picture and the picture of the two other missing youth in my presentation. One of the things that we found that's been very important to youth is when they're found, that their privacy is still maintained. I can tell you that I have been involved in the 3 missing youth investigation from the onset of these. Missing youth and the missing and missed implementation has been a passion of mine. I was actually named in the report. It's not something new to me, and it's not something lost on me. I have children myself. I can guarantee you that it is at the forefront of every weekly meeting we have and every daily meeting we have. And I can speak to you, I can set a meeting. I didn't consider myself as the superintendent of the building having a meeting with you, but if you'd like to schedule one, I have no problem doing that with you, okay? First. Secondly, the reason I did go into it. The reason I didn't put him into your presentation is because once these youth are found, and I think maybe it's important that everybody understands this, these people go as adults to look for jobs, and people Google them, and we don't want their names to be known and there to be a bad shadow across their credibility later, because we do have faith that all of these children are going to be found. And yes, a 16-year-old in my mind, although they are classified as a youth, is a child. They are not in a position to be making all these intelligent decisions. Budget and things, I will let the chief speak to that, but there's no budget for finding a child. We will use everything at our expenditure that we can.
And I think that's the point I want to actually really drive home. You just heard the superintendent talk about it, but it's important for people to know how we do business. And locally at every division, on Monday to Friday, when the unit commander is in with the management team, my expectation is that they review what's happening and what the priorities are over the last 24 hours and what they're doing about it. And every week across our city, unit commanders meet with their crime traffic order management team, and they develop plans and they look for solutions for the things that are relevant and priorities in their area. So when you ask for a monetary amount to place on it, a little bit difficult because it is part of their workflow all the time. In addition, you heard the staff sergeant, the detective sergeant mention, we do have a homicide and missing person unit. There has been a number of recommendations made by Justice Epstein that we've implemented. One of them is for us to consider how we do this kind of work. And there's an additional resource that every unit gets, every division has, to support these types of investigations, and that's our homicide and missing person team that have an incredible amount of expertise and different tools in their toolkit on how to do what they can to try to uncover the whereabouts of whoever's missing, and in this case, this young person, child.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be right here in front of you tonight. I do belong to the Eritrean community. Here with me is my vulnerable or developmentally challenged brother, Muse. As you can see, he looks perfectly well, but during the last 3 decades, the Toronto police has done a wonderful job of protecting him because he does occasionally wander. And every time we miss him, you've done a fantastic job of bringing him back. And our faith in the system is very high, except that the recent events of violence by people that publicly advocate violence and come to our community events that have been running for 3 decades with police protection to attack seniors and vulnerable people like him have gone without any notice from the police, it seems, because every time we called for police protection, police did not arrive, but these people came with police protection in the name of a protest. And we are citizens of Canada. For the last many years we have celebrated these events. It's not only the Eritrean event that my brother Muse enjoys. We go to all events, he dances, he enjoys. And my question is, what are we doing to protect seniors? It was a senior citizen that was attacked on one of our occasions. Seniors, women, and vulnerable people like him. Thanks.
So thank you. I think what I really want to better understand, and maybe we should talk, in person, is what part of the city you're referencing. As it relates to this division, we could certainly make sure you're connected to the resources of this division that then understand events that are happening locally and what might need greater attention beyond the capacity of the local unit. But I do know that there have been events across the city, and we've been to many of them. So when you say there was no police presence, I do want to understand where that happened and how to connect you with the local division so that there's a relationship there so that they can make sure that they're addressing concerns locally, and then they can escalate the need for resources depending on what the particulars of the event are.
Thank you. I do know that in York Southwestern, the police attend all the events. They're at picnics, they're at barbecues, and whenever you need them, you just ask for them to come out. So we've been very successful here at 12th Division. Next question.
Good evening. Thank you for having this panel tonight. I'm going to start by saying that I've lived in York Southwestern my entire life since I was a child, and I'm no longer young. I have 3 young children, and I want to really talk to the audience tonight for a little bit about how there's a divide in York Southwestern. There's a them versus us mentality in this room, in this community, and it divides us all. Things are happening that all of us know about. Things are happening in our community that are affecting every single one, including our youth and our seniors, and no one is speaking about it and coming together about it. I'm going to leave that with everybody here in the audience because it's really important that you guys really think about what's happening in our communities. We're here every day, we live here, we reside here, we raise our families, we've raised our families here. So that's my comment to the audience. To the panel, I don't know this young man. I saw this on social media. It touched me. I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old. He's a child. He's gone. I don't know what the protocols are. I've learned a lot tonight. Talked to the family. I've met his mother. She's going through hell. I see it. We've all seen it tonight. What can be done to help this family? Number one. Number two, I hear what you guys are doing. Thank you for what you're doing, but we need more. We need more in this community. From the stats I saw, we need way more in this community. A lot. Our trustee, you talked about programs. I have an 11-year-old who yearns to play basketball every single day. He has to leave Weston, go all the way to Falstaff, go to York Recreation Center, go all these places to play basketball because he doesn't know where to play it. And I don't know as his mother, who's very active in the community, where to find these programs. You say the programs are here, we want to know. We want to know where the programs are to keep our youth off the streets. The public library at Weston and King, packed with youth. I go there often, packed with kids. I ask, what are you guys doing to help this family?
I want to say thank you so much for that question. And I want to start off by saying my heart goes out to you and your family. And I know this is not an easy time. I've seen Chinier's posts on Instagram and on Facebook, and I've been reposting and I've been circulating to members of the community. And I'm happy that you guys are here today. I knew you guys were coming here today. So I want to get a chance after to speak with you guys to see how I can support you and how we can use the resources of the TDSB to promote and spread the message. So we can have that conversation further. I'm willing to support in any manner personally. I'll use my own personal finances. I'll do whatever it takes. Because I know it's a very touching matter. I want to say that earlier, but I just want to clear that up now. But go back to your question about the programming. I hear that a lot, and that's why I brought it up earlier. There's so many programming that's going on that youth do not know about. The whole entire summer, right there at 33 King, H.J. Alexander, there was a summer camp, free, every single day. The same thing at Portage Trail, but people don't know about it. I try to send it through my newsletters, I share it on social media, but it takes a community to do this. I don't know everybody. There's 130,000 people in York South Weston, right? I can only do as much as I can. I know the councillor has been supporting by sending out the message as well. But just to tell you a little bit more about those programs, we have the executive superintendent here of Caring and Safe Schools, Jim Spyropoulos, and I want to give him a chance to share a few words.
Thank you, Trustee Hassan. I'm going to make my comments brief because I believe the most important part of this evening is hearing from the people who are waiting in line. I want to thank the organizers for taking the initiative to bring us together tonight, and that's Councilor Nunziata, who's been relentless in her work at doing her best to make communities safer, and the same I can say for Trustee Hassan. You know, I'm reminded every single day, everybody, when I send my 3 teenagers to school, that the most important thing to me is that they come home to me safely at the end of the day. And I can confidently say that for the other 250,000 students that come through our door that we're responsible. Regardless of identity, every parent wants their children to come home safely to them each and every day. And as a parent, and as a teacher, and in the role that I currently hold as a superintendent, the levels of community violence that are finding their way into schools is alarming. And everybody who's sitting here tonight knows that. And every meeting that I go to as I sprint across the city, they say, what are you going to do about it? We know it's alarming. And someone earlier spoke about a plan. And I want to tell you that TDSB does have a plan that's been approved by our board. And there have been many plans before it. And I have this to say about the plan. There is no one organization or entity anywhere in this city that can solve this problem alone. None. This problem has to be confronted with intensity and urgency by all levels of government, agencies, organizations, faith groups, and school boards. All the silos that may have traditionally existed have to be broken down. To that end, I will tell you that TDSB has 2 individuals who work in the Safe TO office as part of a larger coordinated plan between agencies. And I will also say that TDSB has never had, in my 34 years of teaching, as close a working relationship with the Toronto Police Service as we do right now. And I wrote a letter to the chief to tell him that recently. In spite of the many concerns that community groups may have related to the functioning of different organizations and the impact that they have on communities. Let me tell you a little bit more, because I'm so happy that you mentioned identity and social location in your remarks, man, because this is what I have to say about it. Our plan in TDSB must be culturally responsive, so we spent $2.7 million on staff. It has to be the right staff. It has to be staff who can connect to and relate to the children that they serve, and they must look like them and they must have similar experiences, because our students tell us relentlessly, 50% of our students in secondary school tell us there is not an adult in their building that they can discuss a problem with. 33% of our students tell us that they feel like crying every single day. Mental health and those concerns are real. And we must have staff, not just teaching staff, but attendance counselors, community support workers, social workers who understand and can connect to students that we're dealing with. Programmings are critically important because not all students in all communities have equitable access. We have put $1.8 million forward to programs in specific communities, including right here in Weston Black Creek, and I can't wait to tell you about an excellent basketball program that's starting here 2 days a week in the days ahead. Guess what? They're packed. We could have double that many programs. And we know that it's inequitable, that they exist in some communities while they don't exist in others. And we have to direct the funding where it's needed most, including in this community, through the leadership of Trustee Hassan and others. We have put $10 million towards security infrastructure. Here's what that means. What's happening in our buildings? People talk to me all the time about cameras, and cameras are important, but cameras come after something happens. But we have invested heavily in that type of technology. I could go on and tell you about the additional points of the plan, but I think it's way more important to hear from the folks who are standing in line. And again, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and I look forward to speaking to as many of you as we can as we move forward together, because I want to reiterate one important point. No one here on this stage or no one out in the audience is going to be able to solve this alone. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to thank everybody for the hard work they do. I just wanted to sort of maybe make more of a comment than anything. People asking, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? This is a society, this country is in an economic decline. And there is nobody here from the representatives of the provincial government, federal government, to sort of say, hey, we see that I make a good living. I make a very good living. My kids both go to higher education, and I'm freaking worried that they won't be able to get a job. So you can say all you want about playing basketball and all these lovely, fun things. What are those kids gonna do for work? If my kid is graduating with a degree and I'm worried about her getting a job, this is the issue. It's economics. Nobody wants to be a thief. Nobody, and an illegal immigrant is not a problem, lady. I'll tell you that thing, okay? We're not. That is a red herring. That is a red herring. Those people came here to get a job at a better life. Right, but you're doing what Trump does, is deflecting what the real issue, which is economics. And this neighborhood has very much never gotten the benefit. Who gives a shit about the law? It's on economics. You don't steal unless...
Oh, okay, come on, sorry, please.
Economics means everything.
Everybody just wants something better for their child. And if they don't feel like there's a future, then sometimes crime feels like the only option. What I want is less bike lanes, more money in the community for things that are important. A bike lane in front of this school with nowhere to go is nothing. There's no organization from the government down. There seems to be just nothing going on. Bring opportunity to the community. We have said this for 40 years.
Okay, thank you. If I can ask, please, it's 2 minutes for a question, because we do have a number of people that want to ask questions. So can you just please make it a limit to 2 minutes? Thank you. Next question.
Hello, good night. My name is Rosa, and before people start throwing chairs and setting up fires, I am Black, I am immigrant, I am Native South American. I came to this country, I was embraced by this country, and I have embraced this culture. This is not the Canada I came. And times change. We are facing hard times. We did face hard times in 2008 with the economic crisis, and we saw it through. We will see through this time as well. However, my concern is there has been a man walking around the schoolyard on number 5 Exbury Road. That's just a middle school. It's St. Conrad, is a Catholic school, it's not a public school. And to the point that our principal went after the man. He did not speak English, he was homeless. He was living at the Roding Park in the woods. Our principal had to use a translator on his phone in order to communicate with the man that he could not be doing that. He could not be walking inside the yard while the kids are playing and taking photos and videos of them. Now, I don't know what his intention was, and I'm not going to assume what it is. However, as a mother, I am concerned because I don't want my kid on a poster. And I don't want to see any other kid on the poster.
Can you, sorry to interrupt, but can you please ask the question so you can answer?
The question is, can we have more policing around schools?
Okay, thank you. We'll answer that question.
I'm going to tell you the perspective organizationally, then I'll turn it over to the superintendent. You heard me mention a multi-year hiring plan. We're working with the board. That's why we're trying to gain support for a multi-year hiring plan, so we have some predictability on our resourcing. We're an organization that is really tied to people and the cost to people. And I need, as the chief, some predictability on how many police officers I can hire to bring on board while our city continues to grow and while the demand for radio calls and emergencies continues to grow. And for me to be able to answer you organizationally on how we can do that, I need some understanding of what I'll be able to hire. And that's part of the discussion on multi-year hiring and the budget. So back to the question earlier on how to engage, I encourage you to engage in the public discourse that happens around these issues and come provide a deputation at the Police Service Board so that your voice can be heard on what you would like to see happen in your community as it relates to the presence of police officers. And I will give it to the unit commanders.
I hear where you're coming from. Where's the lady that just made the comment, Brianne? Okay, listen, I gotta tell you something straight up. I go to a lot of schools where young people are admitted and are frightened to walk down the certain hallways. We had the police in the schools. Now this is a hot issue button. You wanted them out. Now, if police officers had been in the school that day when that man was taking pictures, he'd have went over there and did something about it. By the time the police are called to come, this guy's gone. So, I mean, you know, I still believe that we should have a certain police officer, and I'm talking about one that's a people's person in these schools, because it's much safer for a lot of students that I talk to. They don't want to say it to you, to each other, because they want to be cool. But I believe if Officers in the schools, that wouldn't have happened like that, and they need to be back in.
Just specifically, at the beginning of this school year, we were heightenedly aware that Mario was killed, and we were worried about violence back and forth between some of the high schools. We made an immediate decision at 12 Division to redeploy officers both before school, lunchtime, and after school. At any time students were known to congregate in and around those high schools, all the grade schools in the areas, and both Catholic and public. And I believe we also met with the Catholic board about the schools in the areas and what they could implement coming in from the SafeTO program, and how to best assist the schools in that. My point with that is, whenever we get an incident such as this woman described, we will respond to it, and we have the availability to redeploy resources and make that available, but we have to have the information coming in. I can't say immediately whether or not that incident was reported to us.
Yes, it was twice.
I'm sorry?
You lost twice.
Okay.
Please don't interrupt. Thank you.
Okay.
She asked.
Okay, I don't believe that one came to my desk specifically. I will have to look at it though, just to see if there's a continuous need for us to deploy to that school. But like I said, as long as these things are reported and we are aware of them, we will deploy the resources for it. I think the parking enforcement officers are in the corner that assists us, I may be wrong, yep, back there that assists us in some of the school enforcement at the beginning of the year to make sure that we had uniform officers present and lots of uniform officers available to deploy should violence erupt at the schools.
Hi, I've been waiting a year for this, but I wrote things down. I'm a teacher of over 20 years in Parkdale and a mom from this community with a kid who has struggled. I'm here for the high-risk youths on both sides of the equation. I don't want them dead or in prison. TDSB, what are we doing to hire more child and youth workers and social workers so that these kids don't fall through the cracks? We know teachers in the classroom cannot do it. There's a rotation of them. I know because my child experienced that. And it is about money. Police, we should be able to send our students, or our kids and students. I lost a student in Parkdale this summer. We should be able to send them to a school playground at 6, 7 o'clock at night and not fear that they will be groomed, because you know that's what they do, by older people looking to get young kids into a lifestyle of crime. And it can happen to anyone. It does happen. But I'm talking about the youth. I care about all of them. I will not stand here and say I don't care about those that are involved in the prison system right now and in the legal system. They matter too. Councilor Nunziata, I'm so disappointed in general. I have to say that. I am so disappointed. Where were you on Saturday when there was a community march against gun violence? Thank you to our trustee for being there, but your silence, your emptiness, my York memo, my son was there when all that crap went down. You were not. Your presence, your absence is felt, and you can't tell us to shush now because you haven't shown up to many of these events. And what are we doing? No, hold on. What are we doing to fund those organizations with lived experience? Because there are many and they're fighting for funding. And I thank the gentleman in the back that talked about the lived experience is what matters. We'll get these kids off the street, and they deserve that before they're hardened.
Yes, God! Thank you, God!
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tina. So I'm going to answer the question about sorry about that. I'm going to answer the question related to the school board. And so the first part is when it comes to extra social workers, that comes down to funding from the provincial government. We work with what we have every year. We get $3 billion. 85% of that goes to staffing salaries. The trustees vote on the budget each year to try and balance it with what we have. I've advocated, as I mentioned before, and we have the most social workers and extra support staff in the entire TDSB, system-wide. And I did that because I kept advocating, and it's still not enough. I admit, it's not enough. So what we've been doing in the meantime is schools that we see are having many youth at risk and in need of more support. We've been working with Caring and Safe Schools, and they've been able to lend us temporary staff in the meantime. Right now, currently, Weston has an extra VP, Vice Principal, allocated to the school, thanks to Caring and Safe Schools. And I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Jim Spyropoulos, and maybe he can expand on that a little bit more.
I'll be very brief. Thank you for your question and for the work that you do. The $2.7 million that we invested additionally in the staff that I mentioned is not nearly enough. And the budget challenges that we face are real, and they've been well documented. And I think the approach that we are taking at this point in time is not to try to begin the conversation in the spring when the budget rolls around, but to keep that intensity of the conversation focused on the ask each and every day, because the problems are that intense. So that the cycle of adding staff doesn't only happen in the spring when staff are assigned, but rather we have the ability to be responsive in ways before things happen, rather than waiting for incidents to happen and then adding staff later. So I'll be the first to say that 2.7, while it was helpful, we could use a whole lot more.
Thank you for taking my verbiage that comes out of my mouth. I'm happy that you're going to listen. I hope we get some action. I think it's quite obvious to all of us, with the presentation that you presented, the numbers speak for themselves. We're not doing a great job. We're not doing a great job, and I got to tell you, to Trustee, my daughter goes to this school. She's late. She's late. She doesn't come, and she's, you know why? Because she's apprehensive to come to this school, right? There's people that are being killed and slaughtered in our neighborhood, and I don't like it. I can't stand that this is happening in my backyard. These people, they're not my kids, thank God, but who knows who's next? Please, call to action, stop the murdering, stop the stabbing, clean up this goddamn neighborhood. Now, onward and upward. The TDSB spoke about some actions that they were going to take to make it more hospitable for my child to come to the school. Is the police participating with you, and does the police, or can the police speak of how they're participating, enabling the trustee to do something proactive for Weston, just Weston?
So thank you for the question, and let me say that the Toronto Police Service has been there in every single instance when we've asked them to support us at Weston Collegiate from the beginning of the school year, when there were additional police officers around the school at every single unstructured time. Because one of the things we know is that is when those times are the ones that present the most risk. So whether before school, at lunchtime, or after school, there was an intensive presence of police at Weston Collegiate. Every time that we've had an incident where we need to be in touch and contact police, they arrive on the scene to support the work that we're doing. And that happens on an ongoing basis. When police resources allow, because I have to say this in a very transparent way as well, TPS is stretched in ways that I'm certain challenge them and challenge those of us who rely on the service. There just aren't enough. But I will say that in terms of Weston, the presence at Weston Collegiate is available every single time we have requested it, and we request it based on input and feedback from the school administration, the staff, students, and community members.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Jamshidi. I'm the acting inspector at 12th Division. I can tell you in relation to the schools, although we don't have officers currently embedded in schools, used to be our school resource officer, I can tell you we're not ignoring the schools. We're not in the schools, but we are in and around the schools. Specifically, when we're speaking about Weston CI or other schools that are within 12 Division, I can tell you there's an operational plan in place called Project Return that's currently in place. It's currently active, and we have uniformed members enforcing municipal laws, criminal code, and provincial statutes within the school areas on the streets, not inside, on the streets. So they're doing high visibility Highway Traffic Act enforcement, and they deal with any other issues that may come along the way. So we are not ignoring the schools. We are not ignoring residents around the schools. We're very much involved and active, and we want to work in partnership with the schools whenever we can.
I still have 44 seconds. Sorry to throw this at you, but like, I don't see the police presence. How many people should be in our neighborhood at any one time? How many feet are on the street? Because the presence of those people are critical for preventing something from happening. I called today, called 12 Division. They said there's 25 officers on the road. I call 11 Division, they say, we can't tell you that. I mean, I just don't understand why. I'm not in your business. I give my taxpayers money to you, and I tell you that I really want that money to be spent well. All these people here pay money. I just want to say, how many people should be on the streets? How many officers?
That's a really good question. You heard me speak of this quite publicly last year during the budget discussions, that we are an organization that is challenged meeting our core service delivery needs. And last year, City Council supported our hiring 4 classes of 90 police officers through the course of the year. This year, our board is committed to working with us to develop a multi-year hiring plan, and that's why we're doing it, because we need to move forward. We need to move forward in understanding the ability to actually hire, so we can make sure that we're putting our police officers where they're needed the most in the most effective way. I need some predictability on that so I can move forward in reconstituting our capacity in some key areas of service delivery. We have priority call response time to priority 1 calls. I report on this every single month at our police service board publicly. We're at about 17.4 minutes to get to priority 1 calls in this city. That's across the city, the average. You know, I think when I speak to residents in the city, that's not a number that anybody is happy about. We were at over 20 minutes before the board and the city council, and councillors like Councilor Nunziata supported the increase to the budget that allowed us to hire. I will tell you, we need to keep hiring. We need to actually resource ourselves to meet the growing demands of our city. Our city is growing at an incredible rate. We are an essential service that has been degraded over a number of years due to austerity, and we now need to reconstitute our capacity. I articulated this last year, and I'll say this to you as the final point. The ability to put a police officer in a car takes time. It takes time. We have to, first of all, find suitable candidates that reflect the community we're serving. They have to actually qualify, and then they have to go through training. Then they have to go through the probation period to get practical experience. We're talking about many, many, many months to put a police officer in a police car to meet your needs. So the idea is we need to understand our support financially so we can keep building back the capacity to meet the growing demand. And that's the reality is, and you heard, you know, Mr. Spyropoulos talk about it. We are an organization that is stretched, and we need to reconstitute our capacity to meet our ever-growing core service needs. Well, let me just put a final point on it. There are areas of service delivery and business that we have scaled back on to meet our core needs. And you're gonna see more of that, and I've been very transparent about that. Watch our police service board meetings. I'm very open and clear in presenting the picture that we are facing as an organization, because I've been in living rooms in many communities, in many houses, to hear the concerns. And that's why I encourage everybody to find your voice in those key moments where you can have what you're concerned about expressed, so the decision makers who control decisions around resourcing can actually understand the concerns, whether it's policing, schools, or otherwise, to understand your concerns.
Yes, and I just wanted to comment. When the police, when the Toronto Police go through their budget annually, it's very difficult because they have a lot of challenges, and as you know, if a city council wants to cut their budget, if they cut their budget, that means that you have less police officers on the street, because the majority of their budget is people. And once you cut their budget, you're cutting the number of officers. So I've always advocated we need more police presence in the community. And that's why I was pleased to hear, hopefully we can get 4 more neighborhood officers in Weston. But we need more of those neighborhood officers throughout the community. There are some communities that don't even have the neighborhood officers, and they're asking for that. And people do feel safe when there's more police presence. And I get asked that question over and over again. We want more police officers, but you know, that means the budget. And when it comes to the budget, we have to ensure that they get the budget they need to put the police officers on the street to make our streets safer. Thank you. The next question.
Thank you. My name is Kaunain Hussein, and I'm a member of the Somali community. And I was living on Weston for the last 35 years. I'm a father of 7 kids. 2 of them graduated this school, 2 of them still attending, and hopefully 3 more will come. My question is to the chief. We, the Somali Canadians, we are the victims of gun violence. Some mothers lost more than 2 sons, and maybe the other 2 are still in prison. Are you short of detectives? Because those cases none of them has been solved, or you don't care. My second question is, I visit a Mimiko prison. The majority are Somali youth. Why we are the majority in the prison system are minority outside? Thank you.
Sorry, can you restate the question? I just really want to pay you respect to make sure I understand.